You are going to love today because you're going to learn a lot about some secret techniques on pastel painting. My guest today is Tom Christopher. Hey, Tom.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Oh.
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm on Central Time here, so
yeah,
it's 8 o'clock or so here.
I know. It's always a little different everywhere. So, Tom, tell us a little bit about your career. What have you been doing? How did this whole art thing begin for you?
Yes, well, I started out early in my high school days painting in oils and acrylics. I did that for several years, and not till I was probably about 10 or 15 years ago, I went to a Mark Hansen workshop in Minnesota, and he introduced me to pastels. And then he said, I think these will really work for you. And since then I've been using nothing but pastels.
Yeah.
I think I really didn't start showing until I went to a mentoring class with Albert Handel.
You went to a what class?
Start showing them.
What kind of class?
It was a mentoring, like 4 days. It was
how nice.
And I think there was 5 or 6 other students.
Well, what are you going to do for us today?
Well, I'm not going to do a full demo. If you can see this painting behind me.
Yeah.
I'm going to show a little bit of how these textures work as I apply them to the board. I work on gator board.
Okay.
It's kind of a plastic material, stiff. It's like a stiff foam core.
Right.
And it will accept water and this texture I use.
Right.
The texture I use is house paint. Can you see that?
Yeah.
You ever see the film of Jackson Pollock?
Yeah.
That's how I do it. I just take the painting on the floor and start dripping texture. And
you're doing that so that you can put pastel over it and create the sense of
right.
Yeah.
I let it dry. I apply this stuff called fine pumice gel, which creates that surface for the pastel to accept.
Oh, really? So it makes it a little grainy, or
it does. It has a little like a fine grit to it, like a 400 grit on a sand pastel paper.
Okay.
And you can mix it as thick as you want. I mix a lot of water with it, so it's just a fine tooth that goes over the top. And it dries clear, so all these drippings will show through.
Cool. That sounds like fun. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Obviously, you must think that house paint is archival. Will it last forever?
Well, I think since I put this over the top, which is archival, it will seal it enough to coat it.
Yeah,
I started this process 10 years ago, and I still have paintings that show no sign of deteriorating at all. So, if you frame them under glass, seal everything up, you should be fine.
Yeah.
At least for as long as I'll be alive. So.
Okay. Well, I know Ken Oster used to use house paint under his paintings, and Odd Nerdrum did too. So we'll find out more about that. That sounds fascinating.
Today, I'm going to show you a little bit about the texture I use for underpainting in pastel work. This is the sample I'm going to be, or my reference, I should say, I'm going to be using to finish this piece that I have on the wall here.
All right.
I actually don't paint on an easel. I paint on the wall. This is actually an interior door. I just put on the wall here, paint it gray, and that's what I use as my easel.
And is there a reason tell us why you paint it gray, and tell us why you
put the space for one thing. And what I like to do when I paint is walk clear back and forth. So I'm constantly moving when I'm painting. I found myself always bumping into the easel, knocking it over. This just made it a lot simpler.
Well, if you drink a little less, maybe you wouldn't have a problem.
Well, that's a good point. But that's basically it. If I do an oil painting, I'll just take the oil canvas and tape it to this and then stretch it after I paint. So it's been a pretty good deal for me. And it's cheap, so it's held up now for over 10 years, so I'm pretty happy with it. Anyway, This is the reference, like I said before. I work. Can you see that? Am I making that clear? Let's do it like this. As you can see, I've added texture to this. At the dark areas is a lot of texture. The textures I use for the underpainting also help to identify the focal area, which would be this area right in here. Excuse me, right here.
So you try to put the most texture where the focal point is?
Right, and everything else will be kind of a soft, blurry surrounding the focal area.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, and it also helps with perspective. As I go farther into the distance, the texture disappears and it becomes just kind of a regular, almost like watercolor feeling to the distance.
Kind of just like life, right? So you see the texture when you're close up to it.
Exactly.
Wow.
And
cool.
a really heavy texture would be in the foreground as well. Okay.
All right. I'm looking forward.
All right, I'm going to set this off camera so I have a reference. I'll be referring to it, but I probably won't be painting the exact scene. I'll just be using pieces of it.
All right. Now,
this is
might be helpful if we could get your camera a little closer. I don't know if we can.
Okay. Let's try this. How's that?
Better, but even closer would be better. All right. Good job. Thank you for that.
Okay. Now here you can see. Let's do it this way. Here you can see the texture I've applied here. First I start with this white board, then I'll sketch out the scene I want. Then I will take a can of house paint, lay the painting on the floor, and actually drip the texture on.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, now these white areas I would tape off with painter's tape before I add the texture, because I don't want it dripping onto this nice soft area here. Yeah.
Point to your canvas. That way we can see what you're pointing to. So you're talking about the white edges around the painting.
Exactly. The snow areas.
Yeah.
And
if you try to look at the camera, it'll throw you off because everything's backwards. So when you're pointing and talking, just go ahead and talk to the painting because that'll help.
All right.
I don't know
like
how
I said
TV
before,
people do it.
This is all textured area here. It's nice to put texture against an area that doesn't have texture. So again, that would create a nice focal area.
When you're doing your dribbling, have you already sketched it on so you know where to put the heavier dribbles?
Right. Well, not necessarily. That kind of comes and goes. After it dries, I can still scrape off areas.
Okay.
If I want to create a lot of texture here, I'll just take my palette knife and scrape off some of this.
All right. Fascinating.
Okay. Again, these little thin lines that I get from the drippings really do well to get grasses and sticks that are in the native grasses here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I'm going to start applying the pastel to this now. This is actually watercolor underpainting with a little bit of texture here, and here.
Okay.
Now, the secret to my technique, I think, is the fact that I don't use a heavy hand when I apply textures. If I start putting a heavy layer of pastel on it, fills up this tooth really quick.
Yeah.
So I want to just cast a little bit in the dark areas. And I'll be working all over the painting here.
So I noticed it just picks it up when it touches that texture. It just picks it up.
Exactly. And you can tell when I cast across this textured spot. Can you pick that up with the camera?
Yeah, it'd be better if it were a little bit closer because it's a little hard to see. Maybe if you zoom in on the canvas, we won't be able to see you, but we'll be able to see what's happening.
All right, do it this way. I'm about as close as I can.
All right. Well, that helps. Even that is going to help.
But you can see that little rough area there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get. Let me get my paper here. I know a lot of pastels like to rub in the pastel into the surface. I learned this from Albert Handel. He just dabs it. This does not take the pastel and smear it around. It just takes that first little bit and takes it off the top so that you still have room to add more texture to it. Or excuse me, more pastel. Okay. I'm going to go over this really dark area first. I'm just using a dark, looks like purple here. I use predominantly Terry Ludwig pastels.
Okay.
They seem to pick up the texture really well without falling apart in my hands, so that helps. Again, I'm going for the dark areas first. Again, I'm just a light stroke here. As I get farther into the painting, my strokes will become a lot tighter and even more aggressive and heavy-handed. I'll set that there. Again, I'm just tapping here.
So you're kind of tapping out the edges.
Exactly, and I'm kind of softening the edges a little bit. I still want that texture to come through. If I cast a light blue over this dark, you can see how that texture starts to pick up a little bit. I may have to go a little lighter. Let's go with this blue right here. But you can see how
Oh, yeah.
that may create some kind of a foliage or even a branch in a tree. I don't know if that's coming across, but
Yeah, it's coming across.
good. All right, I'm going to go ahead with these darks here, and I'm just taking, like I said, a feather light stroke here.
This is fun because I never really think about texture that much. And
Well, I didn't either when I first started with pastels because I don't remember seeing anybody that added any texture to them. If they did, I wasn't aware of them.
So that's your secret sauce.
I guess so. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and work this area a little bit. And I want to show everybody how I get to a certain spot here. Whenever I lay down a color, I always go a darker value, a little less value. Let me see this. If I lay down a light color, I want to go a little darker in value, is what I'm trying to say. So this will not be the finished product here. This is just.
But you're getting a little bit of an underlayer over your lips.
Right, a little flavor to it.
Very interesting.
Again, I'm just tapping. All right. This dark area for the trunk. It's going to come up here a little bit. This is a very loose style, so bear in mind it'll tighten up towards the end of the painting. I've got this shadow coming here, so that tells me the light's coming from this direction. And cast shadows here. I'm going to add just a little bit of red to this, or rust, I should say. Again, a light cast will bring out that textures even more.
Do you intentionally try to dribble a particular shape? You know, for instance, if you're working on that tree.
You know, I think it's easier if you don't try to, because when you look at it, and I've looked at a lot of these pine trees, there's really no rhyme or reason for the way they fall when they get old, or so I think, and like I said, you can pick out the ones you want to keep and the ones you want to hide. So, in fact, it's a lot more fun if you don't try to make sense of it, I guess. These are just colors I'm kind of testing out to see if they work well together. All right. Another little secret I like to use. I'm going to step away just a second.
Looks like we left a very narrow path between you and your camera.
Yeah, that's all right. Anyway, this stuff you can buy at Hobby Lobby or any place.
Can you hold it closer to the camera so we can see what it is?
It's called workable fixative. Excuse me. Comes in a can. And the idea behind this is to spray it, and it will add tooth to your painting so you can apply more pastel. I don't use it for that. I use it because it helps me darken areas. Can you see that on camera?
Yeah.
It also, but it works well when you want to change the value without changing the color so much.
You don't want that stuff in your lungs, do you?
No. You have to be pretty careful with it. It's not good for you at all.
And is it dry already? Is it because you're going?
It is. It dries almost instantly. Again, I'm going to bring a little bit back here.
Hey, I just had an idea for you. A new idea.
What's that?
Okay, remember your childhood? We had stuff that was called silly string.
Yes.
I'll bet that would make some really fun texture.
Yeah, I may have to try that.
I don't know if they even still make it, but that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I might try that.
Okay.
Maybe somebody in the comments can look up silly string and see if they still make it and post it.
All right. That's not a bad idea. I may look into that. I think my grandson might have some of that.
Yeah. Well, whether or not it would stick, you might have to kind of lay down a glue surface or something.
Yeah. All right. I want the light to come and hit this little piece right here. So I'm going to go ahead and add just a lighter value to it to see if that makes sense or not. Again, I'm not looking to complete this painting by any means. I just want to show the audience that it's important to keep this stroke nice and light and feathery to start with. It saves on pastel. It helps from not filling up the tooth. And you can
I love the way that it grabs
just
grabs the light.
It really does.
That's fascinating.
And I'm going to use this just a little bit to darken one side. Is that coming across on the film?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of snow back here because students are always asking me, how do you get the light in that snow? Well, the thing is, just like the whole process with pastels, is you don't start with the light first. You work your way up to the lights. So I'm going to take, which is actually a blue, light blue, and start picking out little areas of light here. It may come off to the camera as light, but
no, we can see it. It's kind of a medium value blue.
Right. And you can go over the top with this with white, which I often do. It also works, which will be obviously.
And are you using that over the texture like you would normally too?
Right. Yeah. This area, although it is textured, I'm going to try and make it look smooth. So I'm applying a little more pressure to the pastel here, which will cover up the texture. If I wanted to retain that texture, of course, I would just lightly go over it like this. But I'm going to bear down on this because it's snow and it's impacted, so it will come off as snow, hopefully. You still with me there?
I'm here.
Good.
No, I'm fascinated.
Good.
You haven't lost me. I don't think you've lost anybody.
Well, that sounds good. This is all in shadow, by the way, which is just a little bluer white than my real white. And I will show you in a second, hopefully, that when I do apply white to it. Now, this is a white that I ordered from Terry Ludwig that has no pigment in it. So it's pure white.
What do you mean what do you mean it has no pigment in it?
He hasn't added, this is before he's added any color to it. So it's just a white pastel, and it's the whitest one he's got.
I see. No color whatsoever.
So if I wanted to do a lit area, let's say I went like this. And this blue that I added would all of a sudden come off as shadow.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're putting the white next to the darker.
Right. Just kind of a lesson in values here.
Now, do you actually go out and paint in the snow? Do you do any?
I have. I kind of wait for the warmer days where it's melting and the snow is not, I don't like to paint snow when it's covered the whole landscape.
Last week when I was at Fall Color Week, we had big snow in the mountains, and I got to go up and paint in the snow. It was cold. It was a blizzard.
Yeah.
It was hitting my canvas and making it wet, but it was sure a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I'm probably best known for my winter scenes. I've had kind of a hard time with galleries, selling. They won't. Some galleries won't take winter scenes for some reason. I guess they don't sell as well. I keep painting them anyway, I guess.
Well, you got to paint what you love.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, off on the cast of snow, or how am I doing there?
You're doing great. You've got about 25 minutes left.
Okay, that's good. I'll speed it up here then. I'm going to add a few little trees here. I want this pine tree to have a little life, so I'm going to actually bring it down here.
Again, you're laying it over the texture pretty lightly, looks like.
Yeah. I think you could probably almost hear it if I had the camera tuned down.
Oh, you can, yeah.
That's not Again, I'm just going a little lighter in value to create the shape. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of cut light to it. As you can see now, the texture started to show itself a little more.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Thank you.
It's nice to see something new. It's not something that you see every day.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and add some color up here.
Now, is that kind of a purple color, dark purple?
It is. It's coming off as really dark, but it's actually one of the darkest colors I've got here. So I'm going to go over that a little bit to break it up with a little lighter value. And this may not come off on the camera, but it does help to break up this.
You can see a little of it.
That's all I really wanted.
Just something to create a little texture in the shadow.
Right. And I can go ahead and add a little bit of
light bleeding into it. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to step back just a minute to look at this.
All right. Important lesson, everybody. Step back from your paintings once in a while, because otherwise get too close, you can't see them. Obviously, most of us know that, but some of us don't.
lot of times when the light hits just right on the snow, it'll leave kind of an iridescent blue when it's showing through. So I'm going to try and create that just a little bit here.
All right. You know, snow is not easy to paint.
No, it isn't. And I've spent made a lot of mistakes painting snow, that's for sure. This is an area I like to refer to as Ruby Creek, which is a parcel of ground that a friend of mine left to the county, and it's pretty much undisturbed for the last 100 years.
Nice.
So he let me several years ago come out and paint as long as I didn't disturb it. So I've come back ever since. He's long passed away, but
Well, that was a nice gesture for him to leave that.
but yeah, and he was kind of that kind of guy. Really loved nature and all right. Again, these are just techniques. I hope nobody expects a beautiful painting out of this.
Well, you already have a beautiful painting. Great job.
Well, thanks.
I think everybody's, based on the comments, everybody's enjoying it.
Good. Another layer back here of hopefully trees in the distance behind this. These large.
Now, will you put any light on the edges of some of those tree trunks or where the limbs are catching it?
I mean, yeah, towards the end of the painting, most of this is going to be in shadow, I think. So
Yeah.
there will be a few places where the sun's going to peek through and catch some of these. And again, here's a good tip. Don't use white, use a color that's neutral. Let's see that light's coming from this direction. Just add a little bit of light to it.
Now, why a neutral color instead of a lighter color?
Well, I think if you start a couple shades lighter or darker in value and just move up to it, then you won't get too much light.
Right. It won't stand out as
right. It won't, and you have to step back a lot of times to check that out. This is actually blue here. But there will be peaks of light showing through at some point. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's so pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a touch. It's just a feel. I like.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not trying to render anything other than a little light coming through.
Well, that's a good tip. I have trouble with sky holes, and I sometimes make them too bright. They stand out too much.
I think it was in Carlson's book that he said to make your values a shade darker in sky holes. Can't think of his first name, but I've got his book.
Yeah.
It's kind of the Bible.
Yeah, it's a great book. Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting.
Exactly.
See, if he'd have put his first name in the title, everybody would remember it, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, I'm going to use a little dark here too. Set the mood a little bit. I'm going to move from this area over here a little bit.
All right.
Put a little sky. Now, skies are something that I usually leave till the end of the painting.
But you're going to show us how today.
It's easier for me to match the sky to the painting rather than doing the sky and then painting over it. I think it's also a lot cleaner. All right, I'm going to add just a little bit more here. These are just feather-like strokes.
They're really beautiful.
Thank you.
You know, I always struggle, getting the leaves of trees because I'm trying to render them, and that just kind of makes them for you as it grabs that texture.
Exactly. And I think you could probably do this with oil paintings too.
I would think so, especially, yeah, with a dry, kind of a dry.
Dry brush over the top of this texture. I
You know,
think you would.
I encourage everybody to watch, something that watercolor or oil or anything that is not what they're used to. I mean, watercolor or pastel or something they're not used to doing, because I think that you can pick up techniques that you can apply.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree. I'm going to go just a little light.
You got about 15 minutes left.
Okay. I'm going to let this go. This isn't completed by any means, but I'm going to add the sky to it. This is going to
But
be
what you'll do is
an area that I didn't put any texture on, by the way.
okay. And maybe when you're done, you'll post it.
Sure. Now, normally I don't put my fingers on the painting, but when I'm doing sky, I like to, this will take out a lot of those texture marks that may be left over.
It's kind of like sanding down your fingers.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go just a shade darker. Again, no texture back here.
I didn't know you had mountains in Iowa.
Well, these are actually hills. If we do have a lot of hills, especially along the river here. These bluffs can be kind of high, and there's some deep pastures that go through here. So I live on a bluff, like I said, above the river, so they can be pretty steep in some areas. Hope that doesn't come off as mountain, but I'll tell you what, I'll put a farm in there so you can get the idea, maybe. We have a lot of these farm buildings. All right. Let me go with the texture in these brushes here. I'm going to go a little dark, start with. How we doing on time?
Oh, you've got it's about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Oh, again, that picks up, those darks pick up that texture.
Oh, yeah. This is still a very light application.
I'm going to try this. I'm anxious to try it. You had a secret, and now you've revealed it. Now you're going to create all these competitors.
Well, it's already happened. I see a lot of them on Facebook that were my former students, which is okay. I decided to do that because, why not?
Well, that's right. I mean, and what it does is it forces you to get, to try new experiment, think new things.
Yeah, it ups my game a little bit.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, the sun's going to be coming from this direction, like I said, so I'm going to light up this area. That texture. This is actually a ochre or light, darker yellow I got here.
Feels like fall.
Yeah, that first snow. going to add a little. If you play this darker value against this light value, it creates a really nice line of snow and then shadow. So it's just a little subtle technique, but hopefully that's coming off as snow and shadow and that speck and light. Again, I can't see very well, so I'm going by instinct here a little bit.
I also like how your lines are kind of pointing into the focal point.
Exactly, and I do that early in a painting. I was going to mention that, in fact, that as soon as you identify your focal area, at that point, begin to everything set. All your lines, make them subtly go to that area, kind of like this. So you're going right to this dark area. I forget who told me that, but I've kind of used it ever since. I've taken a lot of workshops. I've watched a lot of videos.
Oh, we like that.
Yeah, when you're in the middle of Iowa, you don't get a chance to meet a lot of artists. So I rely on videos all the time.
Well, they're a great tool, and you can watch them over and over again.
Yeah, and I do. I always seem to find something in a video I can use.
Yeah, I do too.
Right.
I like that.
All right, let's add a little more light to this tree.
You got about 5 minutes.
Okay.
That's looking really good.
Well, thanks. I'm going to add a little dark to this area. There's an area here I need to clean up. That dark area here is again a little too harsh, so I'm going to calm it down a little with a little lighter value.
Yeah.
Hopefully that helps some.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Okay, you're done.
Again,
Last 2 minutes. Make it good. There's no pressure.
To do what?
I said you're down to your last 2 minutes. Better make it good.
Let me add a little light here, then I'll be happy. I want to kind of make the eye travel a little bit, so I'm going to do it with some value. Well, that's a kind of a workshop on steroids here, so there's a lot of things I need to change, but I'm going to leave it at that for now, I think.
Okay, well, why don't you come back on camera, and I'll come in here with you, and we'll just say goodbye. But you did a fabulous job. Everybody, give him a round
Thank you.
of applause, thumbs up. Terrific job, and I love that. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really nice. So, can you come on camera so we can see you?
Absolutely.
All right.
Let me push this back just a little
All right. Good.
because I need to step back here. Here we go.
All right. Thank you, Tom. So,
Yes.
Tom, where can people learn more about you, your workshops, your website?
Okay. I'm on Facebook constantly, so that's not a problem. You can go to my website. A lot of my larger pieces are on my website. So, what's nice about these gator boards is they come in 32 by 40-inch sheets, so you can make a large painting relatively inexpensive. So,
Cool. All right.
other than that, I'm not doing workshops this year. Hopefully, middle of next summer, if it's clear up, I'll be back on the road doing workshops.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all kind of experiencing that. Well, thank you
Also,
so much. Yeah.
Convention. Yeah.
Say that again.
I think I'm on the line for the plein air convention in May.
Oh, you are. Oh, yes, you are. And that's going to be coming up in May.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed we're going to be able to do the plein air convention. But yeah, that we have, everybody should know that we have a whole pastel stage, and so people can have watercolor stage, pastel stage, etc. Well, Tom, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much. I learned a lot. You've inspired me. I think you've inspired a lot of people. And I hope you'll post the final piece once it's done. I'd love to see it close up.
I will. I'll make a few touches and sharpen a few things up and post it later this afternoon, probably.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.